So let's talk about the production analysis that you're going to write. You're going to see two shows this term. Hopefully there will be other discussion in class about which shows you're going to see and how you're going to see them. But for each of the shows that you see, you will submit a 500 to 1,000 word response addressing these questions below. Now, your responses don't have to be written like a formal essay. They can just be a list. They can be whatever you want. If you want to write an essay with a clear argument and what have you, great. You don't have to. 500 to 1,000 words is not a lot. So bear that in mind, that just because it's not long doesn't mean it doesn't have to be great. The first question, and it does have to contain correct grammar and punctuation and all that fancy stuff. The first question is the most important question in the grading. So what was the director's purpose, message, or concept? What's the point of this production? What is the director saying about what it means to be a human being? How did the director work with the actors and the designers and use the technology of the theater to tell the story and to reinforce these ideas? Now, you're going to do two of these, one at midterm and one at the end. We won't have covered critical theories yet in the first part of class. So for your second production analysis, in response to question number 1, you need to include something, you need to include a reference to one of the critical theories that we discussed. At least one. If you want to use more than one, then that's extra points. So what was the inciting incident of the play? That's analyzing the play as the play, but it's very important that it's very clear to me that you actually saw this production. There have been times when students have simply researched a play, like I said, hey, let's all go see this play, and instead of seeing it, people just read the Wikipedia about it or something, or even maybe they even read the play and wrote a response based on that. That is the biggest way that students commit plagiarism in this class, because that's lying. You didn't see the show. So analyze this production. It's an important skill to be able to look at a production and know, oh, that is something that this production's interpretation of this play came about from this, as opposed to just reading a play and thinking, oh, all productions have to be the same for this. So being able to distinguish the production from the play is an important part of this. So, but I do want you to be able to identify the inciting incident of the play. How would you describe the structure of this play? And you're using concepts and words from class. We'll talk about that more in the guidelines. Who do you consider to be the main character, and what was the main character's super objective of their goal for life? And what was their main obstacle? And what were they doing in the play? What was that character doing? If you had to guess, did the actors take an internal or an external approach to developing their characters? And most importantly, what did you see in their performance that made you draw this conclusion? Don't assume that just because they are... Students often don't get this question quite right. Could be a combination of both. Don't assume that just because they're in a musical, they took an external approach. However, if there's a whole lot of dancing, they probably did have an external approach to begin with. So what would be the beginning of their work, if you had to guess? So, number 7, what would you, based on your knowledge from course content, how did the set, lights, and costuming choices affect the storytelling? Why did the fact that they had on a blue dress versus a red dress, what did that say? And what have you? You know, the quality of the lights, how did they affect the play? And what was the goal of the design, and how did they achieve their goal? How did course content on theater history inform your viewing and understanding of this production? Don't underestimate this question. It's important too. So here are the specifics that we're looking for in grading. There is a rubric that I use to grade this. I strongly recommend that you take a look at that first. I am not going to go over the rubric in a video, but it's there for you to see yourself. If you have questions, obviously I want you to ask them, but look over the rubric before you write it, maybe even before you see the production, and know that that is how your grade is factored. submit only your responses to the question. So you're going to submit this in the Moodle. I don't want you to cut and paste this document and just go in and fill your answers. I want you to put just your answers. That way you know what your word count is. In the past, I've gotten a lot of responses from a lot of these production analyses from students, and they include the questions, but they also don't include a word count. That is one of the guidelines, and not following guidelines will end up in a deduction. So submit only your responses, but I would really love it if you numbered your responses so that I know which question you feel like you're answering. Do include a word count. At the top, at the bottom, I don't care where you put it. Let me know that you know how many words this is. Don't make me cut and paste and count your words, because if you didn't include a word count, you probably didn't count your words. So you need to use concepts from class. You need to use at least 5 vocabulary words from class. And you need to let me know what those 5 vocabulary words are by putting them in bold and caps. So that's that. You have to use concept. Now, advanced vocabulary words. You need to use 5 advanced vocabulary words. If you knew the word before class, it's probably not a good choice. Words like acting are not a good choice. Directing, not a good choice. Do not use the word verisimilitude, and I say this because every student always tries to use this word. Many times they use it incorrectly, unfortunately. It is just such an obvious, here's a vocabulary word, that 99 times out of 100, it is used arbitrarily, and using the word does not help make your point. So for each one of the questions, you need to have a point. And using the word verisimilitude is not going to help you make that point, I promise you. Selecting which words to use really affects the quality of this response. I keep wanting to say paper. It's not an official paper. But so use words carefully. And let me know that you know all the words we were supposed to use in class, but I'm picking just these 5 because they're the perfect words. I already covered this a bit, but it bears repeating. This is the instructor's only opportunity to verify that you saw this production. So responses should clearly indicate you saw this play as opposed to just reading about it. You're analyzing the choices that this company made. So read your response before posting it. And if you could have written that just by reading the play, you need to retweak and think about this production. You don't have to be nice. Express how you really feel. If you are an informed audience member. Even by midterm, you know more than most audience members know about theater. You've been exposed to it, so use it. And if you think that what they did was crappy, great, let me know. Now, this is short. This is extremely important. There is no room in this paper to define terms. I've often gotten things like, a good actor should play clear objectives, obstacles, and be free of tension. But in this production, all of this is waste of words. You need to assume that I saw the production and that I know what good acting is, and don't use your precious words to do that's filler. Avoid the filler. Another example of filler, and this is extremely important, is description. You don't need to describe anything. You might need to refer to something. You might say, this character's red dress, and tell me your analysis of it. This character's red dress was an indication of her power and strength and how she'd overcome obstacles. You would not say, in Act 2, the first time we see the main character, she is wearing a red dress that is form-fitting and reveals her figure and contains blue beads and, describing it. You don't need to describe anything, but you will need to refer to things. That is a very important distinction. Definitely do not tell me the plot of the play. Assume that I saw it. I strongly recommend that you write your analysis without worry about how long it's supposed to be. Just vomit those words out on paper and then go back and take out anything that is just description or anything that is just filler, anything that is not necessary to make your point for each question. So, late policy probably looks familiar. Yes, turn it in on time because you're a rock star. If you get it in within 1 week late, there's a 10% deduction. If you get it in between 1 week late and the drop dead date by the end of the term, there will only be a 20% deduction. So get it to me, get it on time. If for some reason you can't get it in on time, then you could still make a good grade. So, and please bear in mind that, just because if you turn it in before the drop dead date doesn't mean you automatically get an 80. This deduction is off of the points that you earned for the paper itself. So, that's it as usual. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.